Welcome to Wine Plus AI. We're your hosts and wine lovers, Adrie and Seyna. This is the podcast where we break it all down for real people, not the people who are working in the terminal.
Just the truth about AI. What's brilliant, what's broken, and what's straight up ridiculous.
Let's get into it.
Welcome back to another episode. I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, me too, because I have opinions on this.
Yes.
Probably uninformed opinions, which are usually the best.
Exactly. So today's episode is all about privacy, or more so the lack of it. And therefore, we're pairing this episode with a wine that pretends to be clean and transparent, but actually has a lot more going on underneath. So we're drinking a Riesling, just super crisp, super bright, super pure on the surface.
I love this one too.
But like privacy in AI, the clarity is kind of an illusion, because the more it opens, the more layers show up. Mineral, citrus, a bit of petrol sneaking in, and a structure that's deeper than you expect. That's exactly what we're talking about today. On the outside, AI looks smooth, friendly, and harmless. But beneath that clean surface is a whole messy ecosystem of data logging, retention, human reviewers, corporate incentives, and of course, can't forget, the occasional accidental data leak. So let's grab our glasses of this transparent Riesling and let's get into the real question. Who's actually reading your AI chats?
Cheers!
Cheers!
Oh man, I love a good Riesling. Whenever I go to a wine store, this is a nice little sub chat over here, but whenever I go to a wine store, I always ask for a Riesling, and I feel very boring at my favorite wine stores because they're like, yeah, a Riesling. Okay.
You're probably the Riesling lady for that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm definitely the Riesling lady. So glad that we can be drinking this for this conversation.
To be fair, I love a good Riesling as well. It's just a classic. It just works.
So is privacy a classic? I mean, it is a classic conversation topic in tech. It comes up all the time, very common. But how serious are we about privacy when it comes to AI?
We're not at all, I would say. I think the biggest myth that people believe is that no human is going to read your chats. So whatever you throw into, I don't know, ChatGPT, for example, that no one will ever read it. Because why would they, right? Billions of messages, billions of chats. Why would they read yours? But unfortunately, that myth is not true. So there was a report from Time magazine a few years ago, which showed that OpenAI hired contractors in Kenya and also in a few other countries to review ChatGPT messages for safety and quality.
Oh my God, I'm sorry, but what a fun job. It sounds actually like I'm nosy. I'm like a nosy ass person. I feel like this would be a really fun job to go through and review the relationship confessions, legal disputes, mental health queries, also medical queries. How many times have you asked ChatGPT, am I going to die?
Yeah. Exactly. Well, you're going to love this because the samples they were reviewing were not sanitized. So that means what were they shown? For example, relationship confessions, legal disputes, mental health issues, workplace problems, or of course also explicit content people typed into the model. And basically, the reason why there is human reviewers for these things is to, of course, improve safety filters, right? So these messages get labeled, and all of the companies, including also OpenAI, have a disclaimer that's always something around the lines of a small subset of chats may be reviewed for training purposes, things like that. But if you think about it, a small subset of billions is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's not just 3 messages from someone. That could be potentially your whole history with OpenAI.
Is it always yours, or okay, so
They will grab from different people, of course. They will not take probably all of yours, but if they randomize the selection, it could be that you have a large variety of your conversations in that data set. Yeah.
How crazy would it be if they assigned one reviewer to review all of yours?
Imagine.
Just gets you as the subject as the person that they have to review.
Imagine you just get like a random message on like Instagram being like, hey, so I was just checking in on your relationship.
How's it going?
Did you die yet? Or was it actually just a cold?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be quite insane, because then you're basically building this like parasocial relationship with someone. Yeah.
Okay, so obviously it's never the same person who's reviewing the same person's queries. But nevertheless, there is somebody. If you ask ChatGPT, like, "Hey, I want to break up with my boyfriend named Jeff, but I want to do it in such a way that he thinks that he
facilitating
he wanted it." That somebody could potentially review that and could also review the response and the subsequent interaction with that particular on that query.
Yes.
Okay.
There is always the possibility. Of course, there are certain things in regards to training you can opt out on, with most of the ones, so most of the chat-based models, but yeah, there's still the possibility.
So this person is getting the ultimate tea of your relationship, your medical query, your mental health breakdown, whatever it is that you're putting into ChatGPT. Somebody could be reading that.
How do you feel about that?
How do I feel about that? Personally, I'm like, okay, fine. I'm also... on a personal level, I'm like fine with it, because to be honest, I'm really not using ChatGPT for like any of those things. I think maybe because I know that it's a possibility, so I don't. But at the same time, I'm like, well, what would they do with that information? Like, I'm not asking, even if I were to say like, oh, I need medical help on this like very sensitive issue. What is the reviewer gonna do with that information? They don't know me. I don't care what they think of me. And if I've gotten what I needed out of the chat, then that's fine. I do think that it's negative potentially on a wider scale, because it means that people are not as free as they initially thought they were to use these models. So they're not getting the same benefits that they might have gotten otherwise. So there should be an option. But on the other hand, shouldn't they be monitored? There's a reason why they are being monitored.
There is a good reason why they are being monitored.
There's a balance there, right? Like you should be aware. I think people should be made more aware of it, that there could be a human reviewer there.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question to you. Do you think people are aware?
No, definitely not.
I also would agree with that, because there are a few very interesting cases. It also comes to the legality of what you possibly put into ChatGPT and what can be done with that information, because AI chats can actually be subpoenaed. So
what? So if I murder someone and I say like, what's the best way of number one, this would be, you would probably get some comprehensive answer. I don't know if you would actually. Maybe AI would not answer.
You would.
What are the best ways of disposing of a body?
I'm pretty sure it would. Yeah. Pretty certain. Maybe not in like detail. Maybe something would be like, hello.
Would it say like, I hope you haven't killed? I'm pretty sure it wouldn't say that. Like, not in a hypothetical way.
Yeah,
here's how you should do it.
Sometimes does the like, well, in theory, this is how it should be done, but you shouldn't be doing that. Well, there have been a few cases where Alexa and Siri recordings have been used in court in the past.
Okay, but those are kind of different, I feel.
You would think so, right? But they've been used in like homicide investigations, for example, and there's also been a few cases with Siri that have been used in domestic violence cases. And basically, AI chats fall into the same legal category. So they can equally as much be subpoenaed and can be used, therefore, against you. So basically, in the US and in the EU, anything stored on a server, so including AI chat logs, can be subpoenaed. So that means your conversations with, let's say, ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever, can legally be pulled into divorce cases, workplace disputes, criminal investigations, and also lawsuits. And this, I think, is quite shocking when you think about it, right?
This I hadn't really thought about. But also, when we're talking about Alexa and Siri, are we talking about these things? Are we talking about these things recording when you don't know that you're being recorded, i.e. that they're doing ambient recording? That's how I would call it. Because I think there's a clear difference in ambient recording versus I'm going to search something on ChatGPT or I'm going to type something in. I'm actively engaging, whereas Alexa and Siri could be passively listening.
Yeah, I think for Alexa and Siri, it's both, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So if it picks it up because it thinks you might be talking to it, right? Versus you actually being like, hey, Alexa. But yeah, of course, ChatGPT, it's basically, if you think about it, it's the same as if you're Googling, and your search history obviously will also be subpoenaed if there is a reason for it. So it doesn't really differ to search, but it feels more personal.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you bring that up, because I think indeed, I feel like if you killed someone, I wouldn't Google how do I dispose of a body. But yeah, it's weird. You would think like maybe I might ChatGPT it.
Yeah. Exactly. And there was actually, and I was listening to this true crime podcast recently, there was a case, I think last year in South America, where a guy murdered his girlfriend on a trip. And before that, he was Googling and also ChatGPTing a whole bunch of things on insurance. And when the insurance will actually be paying or not. And they're like, really? Like, out of all the things you could have been Googling, why would you do that? Like 2 days before actually doing it, which is just not quite, So, so be careful, guys.
Yeah, okay, so moral of the story here is assume that somebody could pull your records and a human could be reviewing your whole relationship history. Just be, I mean, like, what are they going to do with that? My question is, what are they going to do with that information? Probably sweet F all.
Yeah.
But
in the case of there being an actual crime.
Yeah. So if you are committing a crime, don't do it. Don't ChatGPT, don't Google.
Ideally, don't commit the crime.
Yeah, that's true. Great first advice.
But if we also look at it in the context of a work context, there's been a few cases where companies have had quite a few data leaks, I would say, due to employees using, for example, ChatGPT. So there, for example, was the scenario with Samsung a few years ago, where one of their engineers pasted confidential chip design code into ChatGPT while debugging. And that code then, of course, ended up being stored on OpenAI's servers. And Samsung absolutely freaked out. And I understand, because obviously your knowledge is your power. So not ideal. But basically, when that happened and that came out, they, for the time being, immediately banned all generative AI tools internally. Because, that leaked data could, in theory, because it is stored on their servers, be used in future training or accidentally be surfaced. So if someone knows well enough how to prompt for certain things, if that information is also what the model is trained on, they might be able to actually retrieve the information on how that chip is coded. How do you think about that?
Yeah, that one's a slippery fish, I think. Yes, I understand the concern, especially when it comes to things like proprietary data that is like crucial to the success of your business. For Samsung, presumably the chip design code is probably something that is essential or critical to its competitive placement within the market. For all other stuff, I'm kind of like, great, if you want to take our business processes and how we submit invoices, whatever. But yeah, chip design also for like pharma companies, different ways that they develop medicines. I think, yeah, anything that makes you competitive as a business, you probably should not be putting the core, like, hey, here's how you do it into ChatGPT or any other AI model. That being said, I'm sure since then they've rolled out, they have business accounts as well. I know OpenAI has business accounts, in which case like all of your company data is ring fenced, is also presumably not used to train models on, is a bit more secure. And I'm sure that that was a response to instance, not just the Samsung incidents, but a lot of companies who have a very good legal counsel on board. And their legal counsel, I know one legal counsel who I'm friends with, who I'm absolutely certain would be like, hey, let's not do that, guys. Look, they just have to look at their terms and conditions to know that this is not going to be a good thing. But you need someone in your team to do that. And if you don't have someone in your team, which a lot of people don't, and if you're just also letting your employees use ChatGPT just like willy-nilly, they're not thinking about this.
Definitely not. But you also, for example, had Apple, who also a few years ago basically blocked their employees from using ChatGPT and also Copilot internally because they didn't trust where the data was going or who could see it, most importantly. Yeah. And then the question that I had when I was doing the research for this episode is, okay, if the Apple engineers don't trust it, why should we? Like, what does it say when some of the world's most secretive companies, and that the companies that also pride themselves in their like IP and intellectual property, refuse to use those tools? What does that really tell us?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you have like an extremely valuable and competitive IP, then yeah, you probably should at the very least be conducting some kind of training with your employees to make sure that they understand like what they can and cannot use, put into ChatGPT. And even then you're operating with trust rather than with guardrails. On the other hand, I feel like so many of the companies out there do not have a competitive IP. Let's be honest. They're laggards. They're falling behind. They're trying to copy somebody else's competitive IP, in which case I'm like, good luck, guys. Use every advantage that you have, which is AI. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would agree on the company perspective that there is a big differentiation between companies who have that like IP competitiveness and that don't. But if you look at it from a personal perspective, and if you look at kind of the question of like, should you as a person care that your data might be read, collected, whatever that may mean, like, if I want to ask you the question, what happens or how do you feel about the potential of your AI chats basically becoming part of your digital reputation?
Yes. So this is, I was also thinking about this in the lead up to this episode. And I was like, okay, hypothetically, what could they use? I don't put the most sensitive stuff on ChatGPT. So I'm like, but I do start to build out my digital profile in terms of what I'm concerned about, what what I'm working on at work, what kind of problems I'm needing ChatGPT to help me solve. And so I do feel that I am definitely building out a digital profile that makes it potentially easier for companies to sell to me. And that is extremely annoying. Yes, on one hand, you get served ads that are maybe a bit more accurate. On the other hand, you buy a lot more shit that you didn't know you needed, but feel like you do, or are made to feel like you do because they know you so well. And as of right now, ChatGPT is without ads. They're not selling anything to you. It's basically a paid platform, but mostly a freemium platform. That's obviously going to change. And Sam Altman came out, I think like 2 months ago, saying that they were going to start to think about how they're going to monetize OpenAI, ChatGPT specifically. So when you think about all of those questions and all of that information that you are helping OpenAI build your digital profile with, that is what you're paying with. That is what you're paying with. If you're using a freemium version, that's what you're paying with.
Fully agree. And I think it also has the potential to become, like, if you think about like privacy breaches, or at least we always think these like huge things that happen where like everyone knows that like something got leaked and then you can look it up and then everyone's password is on the internet, for example. But I think with the way that's AI privacy is being treated, there's also quite the potential on top of what you already mentioned of these like silent leaks. So basically, I don't know, for example, in the future, it could influence what type of jobs you see on LinkedIn, or what kind of mortgage you get approved for, or any other like decisions that these factors of what you told, let's say ChatGPT, could influence. I think that aspect to me, I find quite scary.
Yeah. I think there's definitely that. I do think that generally from a commercial angle, they want to serve you with things that are relevant to you, i.e. you're likely to buy. But if you think about it like more in a darker context, it's like what you are eligible from a job perspective, what they think you're eligible for. I think and there are a lot of other uses for it. But yeah, I think that's what's hidden about the privacy and what you're giving up. Like, it's all good and well to say to take my stance on things, to be like, go ahead, read all my ChatGPT history. Good luck. It's like not that interesting. You're going to see a lot of marketing stuff and a lot of editing stuff, but you're not going to see really
lots of am I dying?
Yeah, and lots of am I dying? Yeah. But not a lot of the juicy stuff. But at the same time, it does build out your digital profile. And I think we have to be more conscientious of like, that's what we are paying with.
Absolutely. And I think in the end comes down to the question of, do we trust the people behind the models to handle our data correctly and to not leak our data, and not really about the models itself, right? So basically, to summarize on this episode AI privacy isn't really about, does the model read your chat? Does the model process your chat? But it's really about the entire ecosystem behind it. So the engineers, the contractors, the human reviewers, training pipelines, legal teams, as we've seen, any data retention systems, and of course, potential government requests as well. So I guess AI can be private, but definitely is not private by default. And definitely not if we pretend or believe that everything we put into the chat window actually stays in the chat window.
Yeah. And just to bring it back to the wine over here, this beautiful Riesling that Seyna brought, I do feel that it delivered what it promised. But maybe that's me, and maybe that's also like my analogy of like, I never thought that my chats were private. So I knew what I was getting into. I'm a girl who orders a Riesling at the restaurant, who goes to the wine store, gets a Riesling. So I know what I'm signing up for.
Yeah, the consistency was there.
I was not unpleasantly surprised. I was a normal amount of surprised. I knew what was coming.
Yeah, I think I resonate with that as well. But of course, also, I was very aware that everything I put on the internet has the potential of being in the internet. So yeah, I think this wine is it's a stable wine. Yeah.
All right. Once again, this is going to go up on thejoylab.ai. This is where we are uploading all of our very fun insights about building AI, creating more joy with AI over at Neeple. But we also cover a lot of non-Neeple related items, including, of course, this podcast, which is about AI and wine. How great is that?
See you next time. That's it for this week. You know the drill.
Like, subscribe,
and see you next week.
Cheers.